We looked at exponential models. Specifically, we were looking at interest, right? We talked about compound interest, and we also looked at a special formula for continuous interest. Today, we're going to go the direction of, okay, given some information and being told it is of exponential form, how can we write the equation? So how can we write the exponential model given the information? Okay. Now, we're still going to be going for this form right here, that y equals a times b to the x, which has always been the basic form. Sometimes that b is split into like the 1 plus r yesterday, that type thing. But I've got key pieces of information right here that are basically your help to know how to do this. Because we're writing the equation y equals a times b to the x, we have to know a and we have to know b. Okay, now, a, keep in mind, is the initial value. You might be told an initial value, but we're not always told an initial value. So we can't just assume we know one of them. But so first thing, in order to find b, if you're given two data points that are consecutive x values, so where the x's are back-to-back numbers, that's what I mean by consecutive x values, then in order to find the b value, you take the ratio of the y values. So talking about the bigger y value divided by the smaller y value. And I'm going to demonstrate this here in a moment. Once you know b, you can use that b value and one of your two ordered pairs to find your a value. Unless you happen to be provided an initial value, but that's not the way these type problems have been set up in this situation. Okay? So let me walk you through example A and get us headed in the right direction here. Tia knew that the number of emails she sent was growing exponentially. That's my clue right there that, oh, I'm going to do the y equals a times b to the x. She generated a record of number of emails she sent each year since 2009. And then the pieces of information we are given is that in 2015, she sent 1,000 emails. And in 2016, she sent 1,400 emails. What is an exponential model that describes the data? Okay? So, it does say exponential model. So my brain is saying, okay, I'm going to do y equals a times b to the x. That's automatically what I know. And then the idea today is using 2 points. Did they give us two ordered pairs, essentially, or two sets of information? They did, yes. They told us, and I'm not going to write them as ordered pairs quite yet, but they told us in 2015, she sent, 1,000 emails? And in 2016, she sent 1,400 emails. Okay? So I'm just trying to write down my information here. Now, we want to turn this into ordered pairs. One thing, though. When we do years with ordered pairs, we don't traditionally use 2015 and 2016 in the ordered pairs. You could. I'm not going to say it's not doable. But traditionally, we would turn those into the number of years since something. And did we have a starting year here? Yeah, we had a starting year of 2009. So if 2009 is our base year here, then for an ordered pair, 2015 is how many years since 2009?
6.
6. So I would write this ordered pair as 6, 1,000. 2016 is how many years since 2009? And that is 7. So I would write that ordered pair as 7, 1,400. Now, should I put a note here? This is years since 2009. I might have written that kind of small. So realize that X value there is years since 2009. I might make a note of that if you need to.
Yes.
So I'm provided those two ordered pairs, 6, 1,000 and 7, 1,400. How do I find B? What information did I tell you up top? The growth factor B is the ratio of the y values, and that is assuming you have consecutive x values. Are 6 and 7 consecutive numbers? Okay, and realize when I say consecutive, I'm talking like if I was counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, back-to-back numbers, right? So these are consecutive numbers. So I'm going to use their y values to make my growth ratio, my b value. So in order to do this, I'm going to write it as 1,400 divided by 1,000. Well, what's the obvious simplifying there? I don't know. Were you guys taught this in elementary school? What do you do with the extra zeros? Zeros you can cross off. Basically, what did I just do? I divided top numerator and denominator by 100. Okay, you guys obviously do not know that shortcut. Okay.
No technique.
The idea, just if they're whole numbers and there's zeros in both places, 1 0 you're dividing by 10, 2 zeros I'm dividing by 1,000 or 100. Anyway, so there I have 14 over 10, agreed? What do we know about 14 over 10? Could divide by 2 and we'd have 7/5, or some of you have probably already gone there. What's the decimal equivalent? 1.4. And here's the deal. For the b value, I would say use one of those. Either the 7/5 as a fraction or the 1.4 as a decimal. In this particular problem, I don't care which you use because that decimal is exact, correct? Did we round that decimal? No. I don't want you using a rounded decimal necessarily. Okay, so then we would want to stick with a fraction if we were having to round the decimal. Okay, there's your b value. Are we good with the b value?
Yeah.
Now, how do we find a? Use the value of b and one of the data points. Okay, so the idea of it's y equals a times b to the x. Let's see. Let me guess. If I guessed b values, you guys are going to want to use 1.4, aren't you? Which ordered pair do you want to use?
610.
Mean 6 1,000?
Yeah.
Okay. And here's the deal. Does it matter? It doesn't matter. But here's what I have. I have x, I have y, and I have b. Can I fill those into my equation? So y equals, so I'm going to use 1,000 equals, a is what I'm trying to find, b to the x, 1.4 raised to the 6. How do I solve for a?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If it's a times something, in order to undo a times something, we're going to have to divide. And so if I'm going to divide, I'm dividing by whatever 1.4 to the 6th is. I don't know what it is because I haven't picked up my calculator to figure it out. Now, when you get to a, I'm guessing you're probably going to come up with decimal answers. Okay, so grab your calculator, do the math. And I would say you should be able to just put it into the calculator as is. That's what I was going to do. So I'm going to type in, what is it? 1,000 divided by 1.4 raised to the 6th. I don't see any reason that would work. There we go. That's what you should be getting. Did you get it to work on your calculator?
I did. Sure did.
Okay. So A is approximately 132.81, so on and so forth, right?
Yep.
And I don't know what rounding expectations will be in Savas on this one. So you'll have to watch for rounding expectations. Okay. Final answer. Our job was to write an exponential equation, right? We have A, we have B. Can you write an equation?
Yes.
Y equals, what's A? I don't know if I should have the decimal points on there or not. I don't know. 132.81 times B to the X. What's B? 1.4 raised to the X. Honestly, they could have you go something like 133 on that. Now that I think about it, they may not do the decimal. I'm not 100% sure. But my job right now is I'm trying to teach you the process. Okay? We can, that's your final answer. Okay. Questions on the process here? Okay. Shall we try example B? A surveyor determined the value of an area of land over a period of several years since 1950. The land was worth $31,000 in 1954 and $35,000 in 1955. Use the data to determine an exponential model that describes the value of the land. Again, what did it ask us for? Exponential model, yes? So if right there it's saying exponential model, remember your goal is going to be y equals a times b to the x. I'm going to write down my information. What do I know? In 1954, 31,000. In 1955, 35,000, correct? What are you guessing the ordered pairs we're going to write to represent these values?
54 will be 4 and 31,000.
Yeah. Because what was the initial year?
1950.
1950. So 1954, 1955, you're going for 4 and 5 years since 1950. Depending on the problem, I don't know. They could take 31,000, 35,000 and change them to just 31 and 35, but I'm going to leave them as is, I think. Yeah. Okay, so ordered pair, I have 4, 31,000 and 5, 35,000. And I think I'm going to write up here just to be safe. That first number is years since 1950. Okay. How do we find B?
Put them over each other, right?
Put them over each other. Keep in mind, guys, is this a growth or decay problem?
Growth.
If it was 31,054 and now it's 35,055, it's growing, yes?
Yeah.
So when you're doing a growth problem, you're looking for the bigger number divided by the smaller number, or the second number divided by the first number. So I'm going to have 35,000 over 31,000. Now, how can I reduce that as a fraction? What's what I would call obvious? Some of you guys are going to say it's not obvious because you gave me a crazy look when I did it on the last problem. What can I obviously reduce?
The zero.
The zeros, yes? Each of these numbers are divisible by 1,000. So right there, without even touching my calculator, what does that make my B value?
35 over 31.
35 over 31. Okay, just using my brain right now, can I reduce 35 and 31?
No.
No. I would at this point pick up the calculator and say, okay, hey, what do they divide to be? I believe it's a messy decimal.
1.1 per.
You said 1.13?
Rounded, yeah.
Yeah. I have written down in my notes, I just looked 1.129. Here's the deal. I need my B value to be exact. I'm going to use the 35 over 31 for your B value. And I'm going to tell you right now that Savas is not going to accept the 1.13, 1.129. They're not going to accept a rounded value for B. They're going to want a specific value, which means I'm going to have to leave it as a fraction. Okay? You have a calculator in front of you, though, so it's not horrible. You get to work with the calculator. After we find B, my job is to find A. How do we find A? Right, we're going to use B, and we're going to use one of the ordered pairs. Does it matter which ordered pair? It does not. So I don't have a preference here. I'll use the second one this time. Last time we used the first one. Just to point out, it doesn't matter. Okay, so if I'm doing Y value, we've got X, Y. So 35,000 equals A, which I'm trying to find, times B, which is 35 over 31, raised to the X. What am I putting in for X for the moment? And that is 5. Okay. Now, officially, what do I do to solve for A? If it's A times this piece, then we're going to divide. So we're going to divide by 35 over 31 raised to the 5th. Should be doable on the calculator. I know it's doable, I just have to figure out how I want to instruct you guys to do this. Have you tried? Okay, I'm going to try this, see if it works. 35,000, yes. Divided by. Now, when I do 35 over 31 raised to the 5th, realize I'm going to have parentheses, yes? Hopefully this will work. So if I do parentheses, 35 divided by 31, in parentheses, and then raise that value to the 5th. And yes, that is the answer we're supposed to be getting. So yes, it is possible to enter this all in the calculator at once. You're saying, Mrs. Sargent, yeah, my calculator doesn't work like that. Then we can do something else. Because the other option I would have for you is, okay, figure out what is 35 divided by 31. If I take in baby steps here, it's that. If I raise it to the power of 5, it's that. Now, the key is I need to do 3,500 divided by that number. So a trick I could use is 35,000 divided by, and most scientific calculators have, where you can get ants. So if I do second and my negative sign, A and S, ants represents the last answer that was on your calculator screen. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing 35,000 divided by the most recent answer to the last problem. Now, so ants is the second function above my negative button, way down here at the bottom. So I did second ants, and notice that's going to give me that same number, that 19078 number. Okay, so that's a little calculator trick. I don't know if it's helpful or confusing, but if you're ever trying to get to the most recent answer, it only works for the most recent answer that you had equals for in your calculator. You can get right back to it. Okay? So. And now what did I avoid? I avoided having to write down that other answer and try and type it back in the calculator is what I avoided there. So A is 19,078 0.15 approximately. Okay. I have A, I have B. Do I have the information to write my equation now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I do say as I look at my answer, when I wrote my equation, I just wrote it as 19,078.
You took out this.
I did. And I can't remember what Savas does. That's what, here's the deal. Leave the decimal, drop the decimal off. It's all going to come down to what Savas wants us to do, and I didn't pay attention to that part, unfortunately. But I'm going to write this as 19,078. That is a rounded number. Raised to the, and I'm going to have to use, though, the 35 over 31 raised to the power of x. So if I get a chance, I'll try and look in Savas and see what they want us to do. Now, they're kind of messy at times, right? We kind of got some decimal answers, but here's the deal, guys. You can't freak out about too much. You have a calculator in front of you, right? It's not like you're doing this all in your head. You're using a calculator. Questions on that one? Okay. Have you tried C? Try and get ahead of me on C. Here's the deal. C is an easy version of what we just did. I don't know if you believe me, but I promise it is. It's an easy version of what we just did. What ordered pairs are we given?
3, 5, and 4, 10.
3, 5, and 4, 10. I don't have to do any figuring on those, do I? I didn't have to make my ordered pairs. I'm provided the ordered pairs, which several of the ones you're going to see in homework are, here's the ordered pair. Find an exponential equation. Okay? So, I have that. How do I find B?
Put 5.
Reverse it. Put 10 over 5.
How do you know?
Because as I move from 3 to 4, 5 to 10 is growing.
Okay.
So this is a growth problem. Okay. So I'm going to do 10 divided by 5. Man, tough math here. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So B is 2. Pick an ordered pair. Which one makes you happy?
4, 10.
He says 4, 10. If you want to use 3, 5 instead, go for it. So I'm going to write my equation here. Y equals A times B to the X, right? So Y, in this case, Y is 10. A is what I'm trying to find. B to the X, 2 to the 4th. What is 2 to the 4th?
16.
16. So then I have 10 equals 16A. What do you do to solve for A? Dividing by 16. And A is 10 sixteenths. But what do I really want to say?
0.625.
Okay, 0.625 or 5/8. Okay. If you use the 3, 5 ordered pair, the difference is I think you just got 5 over 8. You didn't have to reduce. So, okay, write your equation if you haven't. Y equals A. I'm going to write mine as 5/8. You could write the decimal if you want. Times B, which is 2 to the X. It's a little bit less messy of an example there. And actually, as I look at my answer key, I have it written with 5/8. I also have an example with the 0.625. So indicating I personally would be happy with either here. You can use your preference there. Okay? Okay, your homework in Savas, lesson 6.2. Gosh darn it. It's going to be all messed up.
combination book. We got our test for brother.
Hold on.
Are you serious?